Juju Chang is an Emmy Award-winning anchor of the ABC News program Nightline. She also reports regularly for Good Morning America and 2020. On a fun note, she first joined ABC News as an entry-level desk assistant right after graduating from Stanford. Today, she is known for her in-depth personal narratives set against the backdrop of pressing national and international news, from mass shootings to the opioid epidemic to the science of COVID-19. She has a wide-ranging body of work. For example, she co-anchored the ABC News live special Stop the Hate, the rise in violence against Asian Americans, as well as the 2020 special Murder in Atlanta. Her story, Femicide, The Untold War, provided an eye-opening look at rampant violence against women in Honduras. Trans and Targeted reported on violence against transgender women of color. And of course, she's profiled newsmakers and celebrities, ranging from Joe Biden to the Jonas Brothers, and done extensive feature reporting on parenting dilemmas, digital addictions, and social media moguls like Dude Perfect and Kendall Jenner. As you might imagine, she's won multiple Emmys, Gracies, a DuPont, a Murrow, a Peabody Award, and was saluted for Lifetime Achievement at the Front Page Awards. The library has had the privilege of having Juju MC this luncheon the last several years, during which time we witnessed her special ability to make this entire ballroom feel connected in the midst of celebrating the accomplishments of our giants. As a matter of fact, celebrating others for things such as courage, tenacity, and personal triumph is one of the things she does best. We thank her for her often giving voice to those who feel powerless, with the understanding of the life-changing difference that can make. Congratulations to Juju Chang, a true giant who helps others stand tall.
Okay, wow. I'm feeling a little disoriented and deeply intimidated by being on this side of the bowl because, as Bill pointed out, I usually MC this luncheon, introducing the illustrious movers and shakers who are the giants. And I look around the room and I see many giants among us, so congratulations again. But because I've been here for so many years, it's all the more humbling and full of honor to stand here. I want to thank the IRTS, Joyce Tudrin, and the Giants of Broadcasting. You know, as I reflected back on my career, I think about just how much change I've witnessed in the nearly 40 years or so. When I first started at ABC News, I was fresh out of college, as Bill said. It was June of 1987. I had big hair and big ambitions. It was the 80s. My first job was a vacation relief desk assistant. I sat behind Peter Jennings' right shoulder during World News, and I often joke that I made coffee and copies. It was printing and brewing, that was my duty. And one of my daily duties was to go to the telex machines and rip off the 7 copies of telexes, roll them up, and toss them into each vice president's inbox. That was email. Now, of course, we can WhatsApp anyone in any time zone or any war zone, quite frankly. I WhatsApped voice notes from a Palestinian-American father in Gaza recently. I Zoom interviewed with an Israeli woman whose boyfriend had been missing after October 7th. That is how much change I've seen in my lifetime. But I knew I wanted to share the big headlines of the day from a very early age. I remember very distinctly being in high school. It was January of 1981. 52 American hostages were released after being held captive in Iran. And I am telling you the absolute truth, no joke. I jumped on my 10-speed and I bicycled around the neighborhood going, "The hostages are free! The hostages are free!" Like some sort of modern day Paul Revere. I do think that was before X and before Twitter, clearly. During those 444 days that the hostages were held, there was a nightly broadcast called American Held Hostage, anchored by Ted Koppel. And when the hostages were freed, that show became Nightline. And so I can't tell you how flabbergasted I am 40 years later to stand before you as the co-anchor of Nightline. I'm so deeply proud. My other co-anchor, my work husband, is here, Byron Pitts. We are still on late at night after Jimmy Kimmel. We proudly carry the legacy of the show in an ever-challenging news landscape. This year we were nominated for 10 Emmys, including Outstanding Recorded News Program. Of course, I was blanked 0 for 6 Emmys, and Wolf Blitzer walked away with a Lifetime Achievement Award. Tells you something. But I'm proud of the countless stories that I've been able to tell, from femicide in Honduras, as Bill mentioned, to the fentanyl crisis in our backyard, from the stolen baby story of Pinochet's Chile to the UPenn trans swimmer, Leah Thomas. But I'm also proud of the way that I've evolved during that time. From telex to apps, I too have changed dramatically in those 4 decades. When I first came to ABC News, I tried to be one of the guys. I dressed like the guys, I talked like the guys, I acted like one of the guys. I didn't want to stand out as a woman of color. But quietly, I forged my identity outside of the office, in my off-duty hours. I volunteered at countless Asian American events. I helped at every Asian American Journalist Convention, helped found the Korean American Community Foundation, which 25 years later is now one of the largest Korean American philanthropies in the country. I also stayed quietly engaged in the Jewish community, too, after shocking my husband, Neil Shapiro, 20 years ago with the idea that I wanted to convert, after years of warning him that I never would do so. But I recently joined the board of the 92nd Street Y, which is a 150-year-old proudly Jewish institution here in New York City, as you know. So my identity was fully formed outside of work as a wife and a mother of 3 fabulous boys, one of whom is here representing. Thank you, Jared. Over time, I grew confident about leaning into my identity every once in a while. You know, as a woman, as a working mom, my lived experience as a working mom made my stories about moms or parenting that much deeper, that much richer. But after George Floyd was murdered, I watched some of my colleagues, like Steve Osunsami and Pierre Thomas and Byron Pitts, lean into their identities, their lived experiences as Black men in America, to provide our viewers with perspective and insight. So when the violence broke out against the AAPI community and anti-Semitism grew in that community in that same year, as an Asian American woman and as a Jewish woman of 3 young Jewish men, I learned to lean into my identity as well. I learned that I could be a good journalist and still provide perspective. Overall, though, I think what makes me most proud are the relationships that I've maintained over the years. Wolf mentioned mentors. We've certainly each had them. But I now have mentees. One former assistant is now a senior producer. I have former producers who are award-winning documentarians. And those people will occasionally reach out to me and said they feel that I have helped them find their way. That, to me, is most powerful. That is what I think we call a legacy. Of course, my proudest legacy is my family. I tried really hard to keep that whole work-life balance thing in check. You can ask Jared if I failed or succeeded. But I want to end with a massive gratitude exercise. I want us all to take a moment and be grateful for that person or for those people who helped us find our way. For me, my North Star has always been my husband, who's here. He was named a giant of broadcasting not many years ago. In fact, what we learned was we're not the first husband and wife duo to be inducted. There was George Burns and Gracie Allen. Okay, I'm feeling like an imposter now. But there's also Richard Liebner and Carol Cooper, who's a big friend, exactly, to the giants of broadcasting. It was Richard who not only brought Bill Whitaker, but then asked me to come and step in when Bill became a giant as well. He is a giant among giants here at this luncheon, and his dynamic wife, Carol Cooper, has been my agent for 25 plus years, and she has been a warrior in my corner, fighting every step of the way for pay equity, for just equity, and I'm so grateful for Carol's friendship. So finally, I used to say my North Star, my husband Neil, was so supportive because he too is in the business. He spent years at NBC and PBS, and he understands the demands. But decades in, I've realized Neil would have been just as supportive if he were a dentist. Dentists are very supporting, just generally. But regardless of what industry he would have been in, he would have been supported to me because that is who he is. He is a mensch, and he is the kind of person that helps others find their way. So it is with great gratitude and humility that I accept this award. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.